Game over, man. Game over.
You're gonna need a bigger potion.
So serious.
I am Iron Man.
This is a tasty burger.
Welcome to the In Session Film Podcast.
Welcome to episode 688 for May 17th, 2026, and I'm JD Duran.
And I'm Megan Kearns.
Hey, thanks for joining us, everybody. Megan, welcome back. It's good to have you here.
Good to
Hope
be
you had
here.
a great trip.
I did. A lot of beaching and relaxing. It was very nice.
No alligators?
restorative.
No sharks?
I didn't see any alligators. No, I saw tons of birds. I saw an otter
that's
on
fun.
dry land, not in the water. That was wild. So,
Nice.
yeah.
That's always fun.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Megan and I, full disclosure, live in Florida. So every now and then you just get those Florida stories. And across my
Indeed.
feed this last week, I believe in the Tampa area, was this
boy.
large alligator eating another alligator caught on video. Just out in the open.
Yeah, that sounds right. That sounds right.
Every day in Florida, that's what you come across. So you
It's a new
have
adventure.
to ask. Yes.
Yeah, no, I'm bummed. I didn't see any alligators or dolphins
Yeah.
for that matter, but whatever.
Yeah, I haven't seen too many dolphins. I saw dolphins in Jamaica. That was
Oh,
fun.
yeah. Yeah, no, off the coast of Sanibel and Captiva, there are lots of dolphins. So it's
Yeah.
really lovely and special.
Very stuff. Well, I'm glad that you had a great time. It's good to have you here.
Yes.
Enjoyed
you.
Dave being here last week as we talked about the Cannes Film Festival.
Nice,
which,
nice.
Speaking of, I don't know how much you've been paying attention, Megan, since you were unplugging for a week or so. But the festival kicked off last week. Obviously, we haven't seen any of the films, but the word on the street is that it's been a very, very mid Cannes Film Festival this year, which is extremely disappointing. I don't know what to make of it other than, as I noted to Dave last week, I hope that these experiences just become another alpha, which was
Yes.
absolutely destroyed at last year's Cannes. And then I kind of loved it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I
one of my
can only
favorite movies
hope-
this year.
yeah, I could only hope, especially the Coretta. And I have a very good feeling I'm going to come off different with Coretta than maybe most, just because I don't know if there's a bigger champion of Hirokazu Coretta than me. Maybe Brendan can claim that title as well. But I don't know. I just can't accept the fact that he's made a middling movie, especially one that's essentially a counter to Steven Spielberg's AI.
Right.
The premise is just too intriguing. And I'm such a champion for methodical cinema, which is where Coretta shines, of course. The movie has to be tailor-made at the very least for me.
Right?
I'm hoping. I'm choosing optimism here. So we'll see. We'll see. But there's been just a lot of mixed reactions coming out of the fest this year, and I don't know what to make of it. Same thing with the James Gray movie. I don't know how you feel about James Gray overall, but again, he's just a filmmaker tailored to my sensibilities. Armageddon Time was okay. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. That's probably lesser Gray for me, but his other movies I've really enjoyed. And that's been getting mixed reactions too. You know, like a lot of, oh, this is great, one of his best, and others that are like, I don't know. So I don't know. Who knows?
Right?
Who knows what to make of festival experiences?
I know it is funny because sometimes I feel that some films get so much buzz because people get, amidst the hype that's happening. And then other times I feel like you get festival fatigue. And so you might kind of gloss over something or be like, wow, that was really disappointing. But then you go back and revisit it and you're like, oh, actually, that was a lot better than I thought. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's that. But I'll tell you, I haven't heard these reactions, but nothing is going to dissuade me from being excited for the films I'm excited for. So
I agree. That's mostly where I'm at. That's why I'm choosing optimism.
I love
The
it.
only film I can think of off the cuff here, anyway, where there was some sort of universality to it was all of a sudden the Ryosuke Hamaguchi film. People really went for that film. Really loved it a lot.
Oh, great.
But we'll see. I mean, we'll see. But I mean, it's great to hear rave reviews for that film because it's obviously one we're all highly anticipating. And it's probably one that will play into award season in a big way. But for the rest of them, I don't know. It just feels like a wait and see kind of reaction. But you are right. I have never been to a major festival for an extended period of time. I did do Sundance online a couple of times. And
I've done that too.
That experience can still be exhausting in a movie festival kind of way. But I was able to, well, I had no choice. I had to, because of life schedules, I still had to place out the times in a specific manner. So I'm not going back to back to back all day like some of these guys do. I don't know if I could do that. The only other thing I've done in the fall, there's the Miami Film Festival.
Yes.
But even when I do that over the course of a weekend, so it's only a couple of days versus a week or two, as some of these fests can go on. And again, I may be seeing 2 films in a day, like a Friday, a Saturday, and then one on Sunday. And by Sunday, I'm like, okay, I'm done. I don't know how people go on for a week and a half at a time.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've done a lot of film fests, but not the kind of excruciating, like I'm going to see 10 movies in a day or 8 movies in a day or anything, nothing crazy like that. But yeah, but I've done like 4 or 5 movies in a day. I've done them over the course of a couple of weeks. Yeah, I've done like the Independent Film Festival in Boston Underground Festival. I've done Sundance Online. I've done the Overlook Film Festival.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done virtual and in person. So yeah, so I'm kind of somewhere in the middle where I'm not just going to like one film or 2 films, but I'm also not doing, an exhausting amount. But sometimes it does get tiring because there are times where I have, especially online, where I'm watching like I've waited to the last minute before something's going to expire and I have to watch like 8 movies in one day. And it's exhausting. I don't recommend it if you can avoid it, because then by the 6th movie, I'm like, what am I even watching? And
your brain's fried.
Yeah, exactly.
I just don't like, as much as we love it, and obviously we love it, I just don't know if the human brain is meant to sit there and watch 6 movies in a single day.
Yeah.
Like,
it's a lot.
It could be a lot. Yeah, I think it could be. And that's why festival fever is certainly a thing. And it doesn't always equate to how the general public or most critics that aren't at the fest, how they'll react to it.
Right.
So, that can happen. Hopefully that is the case with some of these films. We'll see. I complain, but I would be in Toronto or Chicago in a heartbeat if I could. If I could just teleport there in a convenient way, that technology needs to exist immediately. I would do that for sure.
Yeah.
I'm actually going to do Tribeca this year. I'm going to do the online version of
I love
Tribeca
that.
anyway.
I love
so
that.
I'm excited for that. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I've never done Tribeca before. So this will be a first.
I love that for you. Yeah, I've never done Tribeca. That's exciting. Yeah, I'd love to do Fantasia Fest. Because I did it virtually and it was great. And so, yeah, I'd love to do it in person. But anyway, yeah.
But anyway,
so many great film fests.
Yeah, earlier in the year, I did the J.D. Duran Film Festival, which
I love
comprised of the Lord of the Rings and the Pirates trilogy.
Yes.
In about a 2-week span. I could do that festival all day. And it was funny. I sent Brennan a text because, of course, it's a long-running inside joke between the two of us now. But over the weekend, you're just lounging around, the kids are playing, and on TV, I don't even recall which channel it was, but lo and behold, just you're browsing around and there's Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End coming on. I took a picture of the opening scene
Amazing.
And I texted it to Brennan, and I was like, I am legally required to watch this whenever it's on TV. So there I am watching it again.
I love that. Amazing.
I have to. And I actually caught the very end of Dead Man's Chest.
Oh, okay.
Like right before you get that incredible cameo there in the final scene. And I know Marvel has kind of co-opted the cameo at the end of movies, although this wasn't even in the end credits. It was just the final scene of the movie. But I don't know if Marvel has ever done a cameo better than the ending of Dead Man's Chest. Every time I see him walking down the stairs and then you get that reveal of Barbossa, I literally have to stand up and cheer. It's like a visceral response. I can't help
Amazing.
it. I literally can't control it. I'm standing up. I'm applauding. Tears are streaming down. It is pure bliss every time that I see it. Just the way it is
I love that.
in our household. So at any rate.
That's amazing. Yeah, I was like, I would swap out personally. I would keep Lord of the Rings and swap in Star Wars. Because those
Which
are
we'll
my...
get to.
Yes, we will get to, yes.
We'll get to. Yes. And maybe
But
that's a
those are
good
my
transition.
marathons.
So great
Yes.
job, Megan.
You're
Because,
welcome.
of course, we are getting a new Star Wars movie in theaters this coming weekend,
Yeah, we are.
which is wild. It's been 7 years. It's maybe not the movie we all expected or anticipated, but it's a Star Wars movie nonetheless, finally getting into theaters. It's been a while. So The Mandalorian and Grogu coming to theaters. Using that as inspiration, we have a top 5 that I am very excited about. So looking back into the In-Session Film archives, we were doing a top 5 that Brennan and I have done before. Now, it's been, let me do the quick math, 11 years since
Whoa.
we've done this list. So I think it's due for an update, especially because not only have we had a new trilogy of films to come out in the 2010s, but we have a plethora of Star Wars TV content that has also come out since 2019. But all the way back on episode 148, that was forever ago, Megan. Forever ago. This is 688. But all the way back on 148, we discussed our top 5 Star Wars moments. And that was a lot of fun. So we thought, you know what? It's been a while. Brennan isn't here. This is the first time Megan has done it on the show, of course. Let's do it again. We're going to be talking about our top 5 Star Wars scenes for this episode. And we'll get to that here very shortly. I'm very, very excited to dig into that top 5. It's a franchise that we all love. We all agree on everything. So apologies if it's a banal list, but we'll try to avoid controversy here. But I do look forward to getting into that here shortly. Before we do, I do want to talk about a little movie that I was able to catch up with.
Ooh.
So back, about a month and a half ago, 2 months ago? I'm not even sure when it came out. There was a little film with Zendaya and Robert Pattinson. It's called The Drama. I think most of you have heard of it. I'd say most of you listening to this have probably seen the film already. But for whatever reason, I don't even recall the exact details, but I missed it when the film came out earlier in the year. I was not able to see it, but I have finally caught up with said drama. And we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about it here once again.
You can
Now,
participate in the discourse finally.
Yes. Before I give my thoughts on it, so Megan, you and Shadan, I believe, did the review
Yes.
here on the show. So give us your brief 2-3 sentences synopsis, your summary of your thoughts on the drama.
So this is a really hard one to give a summary
It is-
on.
That's also fair. Yeah.
Yeah, because one, I'm verbose, but two, both Shadon and I had very complicated, conflicting reactions to this movie, where we thought a lot of it was very technically well done, in that the editing was really sharp, it was well acted, and it's very stylized, which works for some and doesn't or might not work for others. But we had issues with the writing and the plot of the story and where it went and the issues. It raises some really intriguing issues, but it also does so in really arguably insensitive ways, or maybe not as deeply. It raises these issues, but doesn't really maybe delve into them as deeply as it could. And so
Yeah.
we both had kind of complicated reactions to it. And yeah, so for me, I kind of felt in this weird nebulous space where I was like, it's really technically well done. It's a well crafted movie in many ways. But for me, the writing fell short because of not getting into these issues maybe the way it could have. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm not too far off from you, actually.
oh, okay.
I wasn't the biggest fan of the movie. In a lot of ways, I'm still processing the film, trying to figure it out. But the one thing that is pretty crystal clear to me is that the film is way more interested in the conversation than it is being a movie.
Yes, agreed.
Admittedly, and to your point, and you and Shadon did discuss it quite thoroughly, I thought, it is a fascinating conversation with a lot of complexity.
Mm-hmm.
It is really intriguing, the thought-provoking questions it raises. The problem is that the film tries to have its cake and eat it too by turning the conversation into a film.
Mm-hmm.
And as a result, I do think that both the movie and the conversation come off a bit vacuous.
Yeah.
There's a scene near the end of the film when Robert Pattinson's Charlie character is asked, well, why didn't she go through with it? And his response is befuddlement. I don't know, he says, as he throws his hands up in the air, even though he had discussed it with Emma plenty prior to that moment and being asked that question. And I thought it was the perfect summation of how thinly veiled the conversation became, despite it being the main focus. And I don't know how that happened. Mm-hmm. Like, it is a testament to, I don't want to say incompetence, but perhaps not being able to channel its themes in a way that feels full and rich and explored. Somehow the film, despite the conversation being the main thing, by trying to funnel it through a dramatic script, it loses so much of its substance.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see is a bunch of scenes that are super awkward, and they don't carry much weight because the film it's trying to turn a podcast conversation into a script. That's what it felt like to me. Like someone had a conversation about this on a podcast, and they took the transcript from that podcast and threw it in the Chat GPT and said, "Hey, turn this into a screenplay." And this is what we got. Now, I'm being a bit facetious. I don't want to be that harsh, but that's kind of what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's like, how do we turn this podcast into an actual dramatic movie? And it struggles mightily to be both as a result. And that is I'm sure there's a way to bridge those two gaps. I don't know what the answer is exactly, but the way that it's handled in the film, I don't think is the right way. At least for me, it did not work for me.
Yeah. Yeah, I've had time to think about this and ponder it a bit more. And I think the big problem that you're talking about, I think I don't want to say the only way to fix it, but I think one of the ways it could have been fixed is to treat your characters like actual fully fleshed out characters with nuance and complexity rather than plot devices just so you can have
that's it.
quippy commentary on the horrific state of gun violence in the US, which I'm all for. I'm all for that conversation. It's necessary, but this is not the way to do it. And where if you had these complicated characters who were fleshed out people and better written, it could have worked more.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to bring up that moment with Charlie, because to your point, as far as how it's just using these characters as pawns to pseudo funnel that conversation into these scenes, but not really doing anything with it. There were scenes earlier when Charlie and Emma do talk about her past. That happens several times. How on earth does he not come to any sort of conclusion as to why she would have those thoughts? Whether he agrees with them or not is irrelevant. He, at the very least, she conveyed, I thought quite cogently anyway, as far as why she had those thoughts. And so, but you get toward the third act of the movie and he's just befuddled. I don't know. Well, what was the point of those scenes earlier in the film then? Like, instead of just carrying the conversation on, Charlie just becomes a muddled, overly replicated, like there's no evolution to that character. Like, he's just one mechanism after another to have conversations about gun violence instead of there being a progression throughout the film, like as characters.
Right.
It'd be one thing if Charlie heard and understood Emma, and I guess you could argue there's a version of that here where he's trying to come to terms with it. But it feels more like a plot machination versus organic storytelling to me.
Absolutely.
And I was bewildered by it. You can see the seams everywhere in the film. And it was pretty disappointing because I love Zendaya. I love Robert Pattinson.
Yeah, they're both great.
And again, I think the conversation is fascinating too.
Yes.
As far as who Emma is and her background, the experiences that she went through. I mean, all of that is shown in the film. And I do appreciate that it's not just telling us these things.
Right.
Although Zendaya's great enough of a performer that she could have filled in those gaps performatively if the film allowed that to happen. But given the structure of this film, that was never going to happen.
No.
So I'm at least grateful that it shows us these things. There is some visual storytelling here that I do think is interesting. But all of that just feels like a dramatic bomb just to have these awkward exchanges between characters. And it never goes anywhere.
No. And, it also could have been really interesting to pose the question, or it is arguably interesting that the film poses the question, like, what do you do when you find out something horrific about someone that you're committing to, someone that you love? Like, how do you reconcile that? I think that is a great jumping off point. It's a great premise. But again, to your point, and something that Shadana and I talked about, is it doesn't do anything with it, which is just, it's so frustrating and annoying.
Which is why I go back to it feeling like a podcast conversation, because it feels like two people were sitting down having a conversation. And I said, Megan, how would you react if your partner exposed this about their past? What would you do? And because that's how it comes off. And there's no movie there.
No.
Like, it's just a conversation to be had. And sometimes there's just very little nuance to it. Like the friend characters where all of this originated, I can't recall the characters' names off the top of my head. But they don't even care to understand Emma. They just, no, we forget it. And I guess, to be fair, maybe like there's an understanding to that, especially given the family reveal
Yes.
of again, I'm not sure of the character's name there. But at the same time, I do think there is nuance from Emma's perspective. And I wish they would have maybe focused more on that to really dig beneath the indignancy, or I don't know if that's the right word, but certainly the complications of Emma this past, because there is an interesting conversation. In fact, I do think at one point Charlie even poses the question, again, going back to us having a podcast here, Megan, if you had this dark past but you wanted to change to become a better person, like, is that okay?
Right.
That's I'm sure not just in podcast, in real life, I'm sure people are having those conversations all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially if you funnel it through a religious perspective. Is that not the whole idea? That people can be redeemed, that people can change? Not that this film goes there, but generally speaking, I do think that is a thought-provoking question, especially when you look at the context of Emma and what she experiences. There is a change of heart. There's something that happens where she realizes the perhaps disturbing ramifications that come about, and she veers in a different path. Is that not what we try to teach ourselves as far as redemption goes? Becoming a better person and showing empathy and compassion and fighting for the right things. Like, there's a lot of that with Emma here, and the film just refuses to engage with it. It just brings it all up as a talking point.
Yep. Yeah, and it doesn't, because as you're talking about it, you're absolutely right about redemption and forgiveness and transformation and all of that. But I'm thinking at the same time, it's very fair that if you are in a relationship with someone, and relationship, I mean friendship as well, if you have a relationship with someone in some way, and there is something so truly repugnant and abhorrent that they have done that you just can't bridge that chasm, that's okay to walk away. That's okay to set a boundary and be like, I can't be, in a friendship with you or a relationship with you. But you're right. But this film doesn't engage with that. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
I was about to say that would have been nice if that was in the movie.
Right?
You just said.
Thank you. I think so too.
Yeah. Like, where was that? Like,
right.
I mean,
right.
I guess it's inferred. I should probably find the character's name because I don't have it in front of me. Let me look it up. The Alana Haim character of Rachel. That's what I'm thinking of here. She has a cousin that is affected by gun violence, so she just she recoils at the idea.
Right. But
so
at the
if
same
she drew a
time,
line in the sand, that'd be one thing. But the film doesn't like it. I guess it kind of infers that, but it's all vague. I don't know if the film earns that ambiguity.
Right. It's not in the name of subtlety that it's doing that, where it doesn't want to hold your hand or spell it all out. It's more like, oh, isn't this funny? Or isn't this weird? Isn't this awkward? And it's like, what? No.
And she's supposed to be the maid of honor, I believe.
Yeah, she is. Mm-hmm.
So why is there not a scene? There's not really a confrontation there. She makes a phone call. We don't even hear the phone call.
Yeah.
It just jumps to another scene where Rachel and Charlie are having a conversation about the phone call.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
That whole scene is like ratcheting up because you're expecting an awkward confrontation, which never happens. But again, I think it's just to be awkward. I think that's this film's whole goal is to just be awkward.
It just wants to have these awkward moments. That's
Yes. And that's it.
That's
Just let's torture these characters. Let's put them in these awkward scenarios. And isn't that funny? Isn't that weird?
Yeah. And I don't find it funny or weird because these characters mean nothing to me. They're just empty vessels.
Exactly.
So I it's such a weird movie. I just
right.
I don't.
Right.
I didn't particularly
so
enjoy. Yeah. So anyway, that's the drama.
Well, I'm sorry you didn't enjoy it more because that would have been really delightful if you saw it and you were like, actually, I loved it. I thought, this was great and this was great, but nope.
No, I mean, I was pretty much with the film through the first 20, 30 minutes. And as awkward as that initial exchange is when she first reveals, when Emma first reveals the backstory, you know, I was with the film there. And I was with the film through those initial reactions. When Mike is like, she's crazy. You need to get out of this like immediately. But Charlie's still wanting to figure out what's really going on here. I just wish the film had continued that. Like at a certain point, I just feel like it becomes less about these characters acting within the rhythms of a movie, and it just becomes about the, you know, again, setting up these awkward moments for the sake of the conversation and not the movie. Yeah, very frustrating. And I love the cast. Great cast here.
Yeah,
but
very good cast.
And also, like, the one thing I will also give credit to here, I do love that they cast someone else as young Emma, because Emma talks about herself as not just how she was different mentally, but physically she looked different then. And so they cast someone else to really elicit that. And like, as far as, you know, because they could have, especially given like Zendaya's young enough, they could have just make-upped her to death to have her do those scenes. And I love that they actually give credence to how they talk about Emma in her past by casting someone else. That's about the only good thing I can say about the movie.
Oops.
At any rate, yeah, the drama was not for me. But if others liked it, you know, good on you. Love that. All right, let's talk about coffee. I love coffee. You love coffee. We all need it. I cannot thrive without it. And it's why I drink Coffee Cult, because it is the best coffee that money can buy. And that's not just a saying. That is objectively true. Because Coffee Cult sources specialty grade coffee. It is the top 2% specialty grade coffees in the world. And they roast to order. So when you place an order, it goes into the system. They roast it that week. You get it the same week. It is extremely fresh coffee shipped directly to you. It is the best. So you don't have to go to the store and browse a bunch of coffees that have been sitting on those shelves for 6 months at a time, let alone being perhaps in some warehouse and, you know, buying coffee that was roasted 6 months to a year ago. How about fresh, high-end gourmet specialty grade coffee? That's what Coffee Cult is all about. It is sourced ethically as well. They care about the farms that they get their coffees from as well. And the coffees have amazing organic flavor notes that I cannot begin to articulate. My favorite is the Ethiopian Harar. It tastes like blueberry muffins. Strong flavor notes of strawberry and blueberry. If you like the fruity stuff, it's incredible. Or how about the Sumatra? Strong notes of chocolate and caramel. It's a great dark roast coffee. It's fantastic. CoffeeCult.com, coffee with a K, cult with a K, CoffeeCult.com. At checkout, use our code ISF26. Again, that code is ISF26. You'll get 15% off at checkout. One of the best deals you'll get over there. And I promise you're going to love this coffee. Again, that's CoffeeCult.com, code ISF26, and we thank them for their support. All right, let's talk about swag, merchandise, t-shirts. We love anyone that buys our merch. It really helps out the show a lot. We really do appreciate it. And we wanted to come up with some cool designs that we think that you're going to love. So we have a bunch of stuff on our store. If you go to insessionfilm.dashery.com, or you can go to the website directly, insessionfilm.com/store, you'll see all the designs that we have there. We have a Project Hail Mary, Rocky Amaze, Amaze, Amaze t-shirt. We have a few small beers. If you like a few small beers, we got that t-shirt available. How about I Could Use a Boost from the Wild Robot? We have a Sinners t-shirt that we think you'll love. If you want something in session film themed, we have a couple of designs up there. Our latest one I am wearing, and if you can see it, it's just got our logo on it, but it's got like this cool texture thing to it that I really love. So if you want to go and check that out. And we have a bunch of stuff up there. And it's not just t-shirts. You can get stickers. There's all kinds of fun things up there. Coffee mugs for your coffee. We have all kinds of great stuff up there. So again, that's insessionfilm.com/store, or go directly to the store through Dashery. That's who hosts all of our stuff. And that's insessionfilm.dashery.com or TeePublic. All of it's done through TeePublic as well. Just search In Session Film. You'll find our designs there. But we have the links below, of course, in the description. Go and check it out. If you buy a t-shirt, you mean the world to us. Really helps out the show, and it allows us to keep doing this each and every week. Again, insessionfilm.com/store, and we thank you for your support. All right, let's get into our top 5 here. So we are talking Star Wars here. I'm very excited. So we're getting The Mandalorian and Grogu this weekend. We'll, of course, have a review for that coming soon. Before we get into it, and Megan's already kind of alluded to this, not just on this episode, but previous episodes as well. But Megan is a huge Star Wars nerd, as I am as well. Mm-hmm. So Megan, just give me a brief moment here on your history with Star Wars and why you love it so much.
Oh my God. Well,
and by brief, feel free to spend 15 minutes here.
I know, right? I was like, I'm going to David Copperfield, not the magician, but the Dickens novel, where I've been immersed in Star Wars since literal birth. Yeah, like my, apparently I was told this story that my parents like brought me to the theater to see Star Wars when I was like 3 months old. Oh wow! So at like the drive-in or something crazy. Yeah. So funny. I grew up watching the original trilogy, and I had a Princess Leia costume that my grandmother sewed, and I would dress up as Princess Leia, and I would act out scenes alongside all 3 of the movies. And I would quote it. I would watch them all the time, act them out. I was obsessed. I, had a Star Wars lunchbox, specifically Return of the Jedi with Wicket, the Ewok.
Sure.
So yeah, no, I loved Star Wars. So I've seen all of the movies in the theater. I have seen them all on streaming and DVD. I've seen most of the TV shows. I've seen all the live action shows. I've seen most of the animated shows. So I've loved them my entire life. There's not a moment in my life where I haven't been a Star Wars fan.
Yeah.
It's wild.
I mean,
to think about that.
And the crazy thing about this, I was thinking about this earlier today. It's almost hard to find someone who is just apathetic on it. Like
that's true.
This is
that's
such
true.
a huge fan base.
Mm-hmm.
And while I'm sure there are people out there that just don't care, obviously there are. But
yes.
if you go out on the street and you just poll 100 people, 90 of them probably love this franchise to one degree or another. Mm-hmm. Most of us have grown up on these films. And it's interesting because obviously it's generational now. Mm-hmm. You have older folks who grew up watching the original trilogy. And, I was born kind of like right toward the tail end of it. Mm-hmm. The first 2 had already come out. And then you get Return of the Jedi, I think like a year or 2 later after I was born. And then you get the younger kids that grew up with the prequels, and now you're going to get a whole new generation, such as my sons, who are going to grow up with this sequel trilogy.
I love that.
And let alone also the TV shows and all that sort of stuff they're getting these days as well. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I mean, it's such a worldwide phenomenon. It's not even just an American culture thing. These films expand across the globe. So there's no more important fan base. There's no bigger IP than Star Wars, which is why it's so disheartening that we are now where we're at with this. That it is so divided and it's become politicized. And there's just a ton of irony between what happens in these movies and shows. and the world we live in now and how people react to them.
Ooh,
And it's
is there
extremely
ever.
disheartening that this is how it's when if there was anything prior to the sequel trilogy, and really Ryan Johnson even more specifically, but if there was anything to bring all of these different factions together, regardless of your religious or political background, if there was anything to bring everyone together, it would be Star Wars. That would be the answer to that question. Well, not anymore. Not anymore.
No.
And it's so immensely frustrating that this is the world we live in now. And it's obviously why we haven't gotten a Star Wars film since Rise of Skywalker came out until Mandalorian and Grogu, which was it originated, it birthed as the fourth season. How many seasons of Mandalorian was there? Was just 3 previous to the movie?
I think so.
I think so. So I think this was supposed to be the 4th season, and then the writer strike happened, and then they decided to turn this into a movie.
Yes.
And now we're getting the Ryan Gosling film next year. Is that one that comes out or in 28? I'm not sure. It's coming very soon.
Yeah.
It's coming soon. And look, given what we know about that film and who's directing it, I have a lot of concerns, admittedly. I love the idea of it. I love the premise. I love Ryan Gosling, but there's a lot as far as the leadership group of that movie that leaves me questioning things. So we'll see. I just wonder if we're going to get an extremely sanitized version of Star Wars, because Disney is at a point now where they're scared to death to take any sort of risk, given what occurred over the sequel trilogy. And I think it's, and I don't mind Jon Favreau. I think he's great. And Filoni has done great work on the animation side.
Agreed.
As far as the shows go, again, there's just been a lot of pandering. And I think Disney wants to do that because they feel safer there. Although, I think Favreau and Filoni took some risk with some of the things they did. But also a lot of what they've done, they're trying to justify the sequel trilogy, which we discussed last week or the week before as well. So I don't know. All of that to say, a lot of word salad to say, this is such a beloved IP and franchise, and we all love it. And I wish that we could get back to uniformity on it. That will probably never happen anymore. Not in the world we live in and the trajectory of it. But I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. But Disney's got to figure it out. They got to figure something out.
Yeah, I mean, I would hope that they keep telling exceptional stories. Especially the way Andor is a masterpiece from start to finish. And I love Dave Filoni. I love what he's done with the animated series. And I would hope that those are the kind of stories that I would love to see in both of those cases. But you're right. I don't like fan service. I don't think you should be, as a storyteller or artist, listening to what fans want. Fans are fickle sometimes, and so giving them fan service, you might think that that's what they want or that's what they want to see, but it doesn't usually work out that way. It doesn't usually pan out in a good way. I think you need to focus on the stories and focus on telling unique stories and exploring different genres within the Star Wars universe. I think that's nice too. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of what we've seen, Andor aside, but I think what we've seen over the last 6 years is a manifestation of that fickleness that you're talking about there. Because Mando started off fantastic. I think those first 2 seasons are great.
They're excellent.
But
Yeah,
then
I agree.
they wanted to pander a little bit more. And then you bring in Boba Fett. Let's give Boba Fett a show. Except we're not going to make it about Boba Fett. It's somehow
Not
going to be
really.
about the Mandalorian still. And Ahsoka shows up. And Luke Skywalker's there. Very weird. Like, you know. And
I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm a weirdo. I don't think it's as weird considering the state of the Jedis and how the Jedis have basically been, you know, massacred and they're almost extinct, even though there, as we find out through many of these stories, there are definitely more Jedi than people think, you know, in various pockets. So I don't know though. I'm not as annoyed with seeing Ahsoka Tano, with seeing Luke Skywalker. I'm not. I'm kind of excited.
Well,
selfishly.
the Luke thing honestly makes sense, especially when we get more reveals later on about Grogu and who he is and the stakes involved, given where we know things are going to go with the sequel trilogy and Palpatine and all that sort of stuff. The execution probably could have been a little bit better as far as the de-aging and all that sort of stuff. Perhaps recast the role. The idea I don't mind. And even in Boba Fett, the Mando Ahsoka stuff in a vacuum, I think is great. I just don't think it belongs in a Boba Fett show where he's trying to regain control and power over the mob, essentially.
Right.
Like, that's what that show's about. It had nothing to do with any of that other stuff.
No. And
so that's what I mean by like weird.
No, that's
it's
weird.
just like the execution of it has been kind of all over the place.
Yeah, it's
You
like
know,
people want Mando and Grogu. Let's shoehorn them in everywhere.
Exactly. And that was my point to your, you know, when you were articulating about the fickleness of fans. I'm like, we want more of this. But then, so then they try to just shoehorn it in whenever they can.
Right.
Or then there's something like The Acolyte, which I think showed great promise.
I loved
I
The
thought was
Acolyte.
fantastic. Yeah, I really liked it a lot too. But and again, they just start to pander to fans because one half of the fan base was like, we can't have that.
We can't handle
And-
lesbian space witches. We don't want that.
Oh no, God forbid. And so then they cancel that show almost exclusively because of that. And so like, yeah, I mean, at a certain point you just have to pull the reins and let them make great things, which is what leads us to Andor, right? Because they just let him make that show. And it's maybe the best Star Wars anything, which is just fantastic. At any rate, we're here to talk about scenes. That was a lot of pretext just to get to scenes. But, you know, I wanted
There's a lot to say.
express our fandoms here a little bit, nerd out, if you will. Love that. All right. Well, let's get into this. Did you have any criteria for your list?
No, I had none other than I pulled from I shouldn't say I pulled from everything. There are many things that are not on this list that I would have loved to have had on this list that I didn't. So, but I contemplated everything. Shows, live action animated, movies, the original, the prequels, the sequels, everything. And what I went with is I went with what sticks with me and emotionally destroys me. And those are the scenes. Those are the scenes that are on this list.
Yeah.
So I didn't set out to pick those scenes, but that's, as I'm going over my list, I'm like, oh, those are all the scenes I picked were the scenes that absolutely made me sob or just ravaged my heart and stomped it on the floor. So
Yeah.
So that's what I went with.
We know how I am. That's just inherent to me. So yeah, my scenes are along those same lines for sure. And I should note that Megan and I predetermined we wanted to expand this beyond the films. So just talking about Star Wars canon as it is now. So yes, we will also talk about the TV shows that will be a part of this conversation as well as the films. As far as any other criteria, you know, usually when we regurgitate a list like this, I will often forgo the picks I had previously. But this has been so long, again, 11 years or so since we did this list last, that I don't know what would change for me. And I wanted this to be as pure as possible. just because I wanted to revel in not just my Star Wars fandom, but again, because we're putting everything collectively into the box. And the last time that we did this list, we didn't have the sequel trilogy. We didn't have all these shows and books and stuff. So I wanted to be as pure with this as possible, but I did not go back and look at my list. I did not re-listen to that show or that segment. I have no clue what I picked last time. So it could be the same picks. It may not be. I honestly have no idea. We'll have to go back and compare. So we'll see. Maybe I'll reveal those results on next week's show. But that's where I'm coming at. So let's jump into this. Megan, what do you got at number 5?
Okay. I just also have to say, I've said this to you off mic, and I'm going to say it here.
Yeah.
I have said this before that, this was the hardest ranking. This is the hardest ranking. I agonized over this. And I know, and I just had at some point to go with, nope, this is what I'm sticking with. But I know that I'm going to probably beat myself up
and be like, top no. 30 easily.
Easily. Yeah. So absolutely. But I went with my number 5 is in Empire Strikes Back when Han is frozen in carbonite, but a very specific moment in that scene when Han is frozen in carbonite immediately after and while it's happening, Leia's face. That moment, watching Leia's face of sheer devastation is incredible to me. I love Carrie Fisher so much, and she is excellent as Princess Leia.
She's the best. Yeah.
She's the best. The fact that she did so much uncredited rewriting of the script on these movies, and because she's such a shrewd writer and thinker and talker, and I love that she sharpened the dialogue in certain scenes. And what I love about this scene, so Leia as a character, we are introduced to her where she's, requesting help from Obi-Wan. She's on the run. She is arrested by Vader, and her planet is genocided. And she loses her home, her parents, everyone she knows, her entire planet in one fell swoop. Yeah. And yet she just marshals on. She just keeps going. She pushes forward. And she has just faced devastation after devastation, and she's still a leader. She's still moving forward. But here we're seeing another personal apocalypse with her love, arguably love of her life, who is possibly going to be murdered, but instead he is, frozen in this trap, this device. And she is just horrified. And she just looks so bereft and so distraught. But then immediately afterwards, she immediately rallies and is like, no, we got to get the hell out of here. We have to take charge. And again, she just pushes through. And so to me, that one scene of vulnerability is really tragic for this character who has endured so much and finally lets her guard down to be vulnerable and to love him. And yet he's being ripped away from her. And so just there's so much happening in that moment with her facial expressions and to that character. I love it. And also having that happen to a character is kind of shocking, like in this series at this point in time.
Yeah, that's a fascinating pick because I think when you think about that scene, you probably think of the "I love you, I know" exchange, maybe the most. But her reaction to it in the aftermath of it, it's so fascinating, and it also gives so much weight to the opening scenes of Return of the Jedi when that whole arc begins to crystallize there, and she makes the choices that she does. Yeah, it's really fantastic, and you make a great observation as well that is interesting because when you watch these as a kid, you're just so caught up in the lore and the lightsabers and the fun of it all that as kids, you don't really think about the artistic process. And then you get to adulthood and you realize that Carrie Fisher just isn't this magnetic presence on screen, but she also had a hand in the writing and sharpening that script. That was such a fascinating tidbit to learn when you get older. Like, man, she really had a hand. She was invested in this. Really wanted this to be great. And that's to this day is one of my favorite movie trivia things. Just because you grow up and you don't really think about it. And then to realize that she really had a hand in making those scenes come alive emotionally. It's just phenomenal stuff.
Yeah.
God, miss her to death.
I know. But then also thinking about, I hadn't even thought about this when I picked that scene, but also thinking about the real life relationship between Carrie Fisher and Harrison Ford and how they had this electric chemistry on screen and also possibly, well, not possibly off screen, but they were in a relationship and then that didn't work out. Like, so I feel like that's all coming to the table too in this scene. So yeah, anyway, Carrie Fisher's the best. She's the best.
Deeply love it. That was a great pick.
Thank you.
All right, for my number 5, I'm going to a moment that I'd be shocked if this wasn't on my list the last time. But again, I don't know for sure, but I'm guessing that it is because it's simply one of my very favorite moments in all of Star Wars. And this is the moment when Yoda explains the Force to Luke there in the swamp.
All right.
And I think part of it for me is that, and this is going to be a theme in my top 5. I didn't really do this purposefully, but once I settled on my 5 picks, I did see a theme come to the surface as it relates to the Jedi. And I think what's interesting with my pick here is that it highlights the Jedi within the confines of what these films, what the franchise is doing as a religious allegory. And obviously what's so compelling about the Jedi in that regard is that it's synthesizing Eastern philosophies with Western spiritual archetypes, and that manifest in various ways over the course of the 9 films, of course, and then the TV shows. And ultimately what it represents is this journey of faith and self-mastery and moral responsibility that is fogged, especially once you get to the prequel trilogy for sure. But when you're looking at that specifically, Jedi as a religious allegory, I don't think there's a more quintessential version of that than Yoda. And he goes on this incredible journey here with Luke, and they're trying to lift the X-Wing out of the swamp. And you get that iconic moment where Yoda simply says, "My ally is the Force," and a powerful ally it is. Life creates it, makes it grow. Its energy surrounds us, binds us. Luminous beings are we, not this crude matter. You must feel the Force flow around you. Here between you, me, the tree, the rock, yes, even between the land and the ship. I am not particularly religious myself, although I certainly grew up with it being around me all the time. And in a way, I'm still pretty fascinated by it in some ways. And that comes through with incredible pathos in this moment with Yoda. I just love how the Force stops being myth for Luke in this moment, and it becomes real philosophy. It becomes the defining spiritual core of Star Wars. And again, not just with this trilogy, but through the rest of it. And it's such a great moment. I deeply love it, especially when you couple it with John Williams' just freaking brilliant score there. It's so good. That Force theme that he has for these movies is probably top 10, top 5 of all time, especially if we're just talking about blockbuster filmmaking. It is tremendous. Just absolutely love it. And how that plays as Yoda's talking there about the ally, the Force being an ally, and a powerful ally it is. Like, that is one of my favorite lines in all of Star Wars. And because it's so fundamental to how I perceive Star Wars, especially moving forward away from the original trilogy. But for that initial trilogy and the trajectory it sets Luke on, this moment is key. It is the nucleus from everything we see from Luke moving forward. This dynamic he has with Yoda, this brief moment where he gets to learn from the master. And it's such a great antidote to cynicism, the hope and courage and faith that begins to fester with Luke here as a result of this exchange. And I love it. My number 5 here.
That's a great pick. It's such an iconic scene. I think there are a couple things that are really fascinating about that pick. One, the trajectory that Yoda has, as we see in the prequel films, as we see in the shows like Clone Wars, and kind of seeing the weight that Yoda has of all of this knowledge and all of these mistakes that the Jedi Order made and the Jedi Council, and how he's all alone and he is sequestered, and it's so tragic, but also so hopeful. And there's a real beauty in that tension with him as a character. And I also really love when he talks about, judge me by my size, you do, and how Luke assumes you have to be big and strong in order to wield the Force properly, or in order to hoist, his ship out of the swamp. And Yoda does it so easily and so deftly, of course, because he's so gifted and so connected to the Force. But it is really, it's really striking to me, because we see, especially because of Luke's journey, and so much of it is, of course, the traditional hero's quest and the hero's journey, but also amongst that, especially with his interactions with Yoda and his interactions with Obi-Wan and then with Vader, there's so much myth making in Luke, but there's also so much deconstruction of myth making. And I find that duality really fascinating too. So I love that you picked that scene for a multitude of reasons. I think it's a really brilliant one.
Well, yeah, and that's why I wanted to funnel so much of this, at least as the conversation stands right now, through that religious prism, because at least in terms of the religion that dictated so much of my life and American life is Christianity, and the Christ archetypes here between Luke and Anakin, it's pretty staggering, and obviously very purposeful given where things go and what we know about those two characters.
Yeah.
And so that's why, to me, it's just so foundational, and Lucas clearly had a vision for how he wanted to flip the mirror to Luke with Anakin once we got to the prequel trilogy. And despite all of the flaws of the prequel trilogy, I think he nailed that element of it, which is why I still think those films carry a lot of weight despite their issues, is how he nails the flip side of the coin to Luke with Anakin. And it's pretty incredible stuff. And this moment with Yoda and the stakes of it, which I go back to as well, because as you noted, he's sequestered. He's by himself.
Yeah.
We come to find out in the prequel trilogy the issues of the Jedi and what led to their downfall. And this is his last opportunity. He knows it. Yoda knows it. Like this, if the Jedi, if the Force, if belief in the Force is ever going to continue, it is this exchange between Yoda and Luke. And so he treats Luke. It's so fascinating because there is a tenderness to it. There is patience, but also a sense of urgency. And it's just like, the pacing of it. And I love all of that. It's pretty brilliant. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Good movie,
stuff.
turns out. Good movie.
Yeah. Who'd have thought that? Also, both of our top 5 picks, or number 5 is both from Empire. I love that.
From Empire. Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
All right. What do you got at number 4?
Okay. So number 4 is veering away from the the movies. My number 4 is from Andor, and it is Mon Mothma's genocide and anti-fascism speech to the Senate
gosh.
in season 2, episode 9, Welcome to the Rebellion. And
Okay, hold on, Megan.
yes,
All these picks, and we cross over here. This is my number 3.
I
My
love
number
it.
3 here.
I love it. I love it. I'm so
Yes.
excited that we both have it. I mean, it's not a surprise. It's an iconic scene. It is incredible. It is so expertly written, incredibly well acted. This is such a great bookend to Padme saying in episode 3, "This is how liberty dies with thunderous applause,"
Yep.
which is a scene I absolutely adore. And to have Mon, who has been this whole time trying to navigate the Senate, trying to navigate her marriage, and yes, she's a privileged woman, but she is confined in so many ways, and so many of her colleagues are not standing up for what's right, and she is risking it all. She is risking her life, she is risking her job, everything she knows to stand up for what's right. And I love that. And I love, that she talks about that we're in crisis, and the distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. And of all things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. And she talks about the victory of evil. This scene is just incredible. It is masterful. And this is at the crux of Star Wars. Star Wars has and is and hopefully always will be a show and a series and a movie about hope, of course, but also about rebellion and about crushing and defeating oppressive forces of fascism. It is an anti-fascist story. George Lucas was a giant hippie. George Lucas is anti-fascist, and that
he was
is
pretty adamant about what's going on.
Yes,
politically.
and that is baked into the DNA of this entire franchise. And especially considering where we are at currently, politically, horrifically, to have a show like Andor that is so brilliant in what it does, and it is so subtle in so many ways, but to explicitly call out the machinations of fascism and genocide is extremely powerful. And just, it's a brilliant moment. And I think it's at the core of so much of what Star Wars is about. And I love it.
Stand this morning with a difficult message. I believe we are in crisis. The distance between what is said and what is known to be true has become an abyss. Of all the things at risk, the loss of an objective reality is perhaps the most dangerous. The death of truth is the ultimate victory of evil. When truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it is ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. I mean, if that doesn't move you in the world we live in now, I don't think anything ever could. I don't think anything ever could. And it's such a fascinating moment that not only works brilliantly within the context of the show, but as most of Star Wars does, I think it very much expands beyond it. And immediately after she says those words, she calls out the Gorman Plaza incident as genocide.
Yes.
It is Star Wars political storytelling at the highest level. And I love that Mothma forgoes all diplomacy, which we had seen her do a ton of up until that moment. She leaves that at the door and openly names fascism for what it is. And then in the aftermath of that, you get this incredible escape sequence that weaponizes tension in the best of ways as she leaves there with Cassian. It's incredible. It's incredible. I love that we get the speech and that chase sequence afterwards, because it shows that what she did was super dangerous. Literal life and death stakes.
Yes.
And it's where the rebellion begins. And obviously we know that that's where all of this is going, but to be so explicit about it in the ways that we see in Andor and with this moment in particular, it's just absolutely fascinating. And especially to hear it come from Mothma, who had, like, she had safety and status and privilege.
Yes.
And she's willing to let go of all of that for a moral superior, to do the right thing. And I love how this moment denotes how terrifying that is, to have this moral obligation and to see it all the way through.
Yep.
It's fascinating. Yeah. The machinations and the maneuverings of Andor is just incredible. But yeah, that speech from Mothma and the escape right afterwards is absolutely some of the best storytelling I've maybe ever seen, let alone Star Wars. But it's certainly up there in the Star Wars canon for sure, and it's my number 3. Here.
I love that. Yeah. I love that. I also love that it's a great culmination to an extension of what Marva's funeral speech is and Nemec's manifesto. And I also love that in the midst of Mon's speech that's going on, there are other things happening, like Cassian is, working behind the scenes, and so are other people too, but they're trying to shut her down. They're trying to turn off the broadcast, because again, those are the tools of fascism, is to censor the news, to censor free speech. And so I love that we are seeing that she's giving this very risky speech, that is a call to arms. It is a declaration of the atrocities going on. They're trying to stop it. And it's perfectly encapsulating what she's talking about. And brilliant. Yeah. Love it.
Surely we haven't seen that happen in the real world, right?
No never,
censorship happening.
Never.
No one's been fired over what they've said on cable news, right?
No.
Yeah,
No.
crazy.
Never.
Absolutely. He nailed it. Like and it's funny because he's talked in interviews about how, like, he just looked at the blueprint.
Yes.
And that's all he did.
Yeah. Like, I just looked at fascism in other places. That's it. Imagine that.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Boy.
What a moment. Anyway, Andor rolls. That moment is great.
Andor's the best.
So that was your number 4. My number 3. Yes. I will talk about my number 4 here real quick. This is where JD tries not to cry. So my number 4 here, I will never forget watching this the first time. Han Solo, the death of Han Solo, his sacrifice in The Force Awakens. When this movie came out, Sam, my oldest, was maybe 3 months old, 2 months old, perhaps. He was very, very little. I was a brand spanking new father at this time. So I was very much in my feelings in general, let alone what we get with Han Solo here. And I will defend this to the day that I die. I absolutely love this moment. And I love The Force Awakens in general. And this is quintessential as to why I just don't think JJ gets enough credit, because, again, what is he wanting to do with that movie? He's wanting to hold a mirror up to the original trilogy. That's the whole idea. That's why we get so much of those very superficial plot points that is then subverted as it goes. And one of those incredible machinations here is with Han Solo. The Han Solo in The Force Awakens is the perfect mirror to that original trilogy. And who is he in the original trilogy? Well, he's everyone's favorite scoundrel. He's brash. He's cynical. He's fierce, independent. But as it goes, we see him become more compassionate as it goes. And he ultimately becomes maybe everyone's favorite character, arguably. But who is he in The Force Awakens? He's none of those things. He's maybe a little brash still.
Always.
Especially when we first meet up with him and we realize he's been away from General Leia for a little bit. But there's an emotional undercurrent that has sparked that divide. And then ultimately they are brought back together. And the reason they are brought back together is because their son has turned to the dark side. But he's not Darth Vader. He's not all powerful. Again, we're holding up the mirror. Kylo Ren is a kid in cosplay. That's what he is in The Force Awakens. But there's that great moment. You had an incredible moment between Leia and Han as your number 5. Earlier in The Force Awakens, before we get to his death, obviously, there's that phenomenal moment when General Leia tells him, you need to go save our son.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. And as Han does, he, there's that great embrace, and then he goes on to find Ben, and they have that great moment there on the balcony, and the exchange is incredible. I love it because while Ben knows that he has to kill Han in order for him to fulfill, at least in his mind, in order to become Darth Vader, which is what he wants.
Yeah.
That's what he wants to be. And in order to get one step closer, he has to remove Han from it. But at the same time, he's vulnerable. He's a son that's vulnerable in that moment. There's a great moment where when Han first approaches him and he's just like, I want the pain to be over.
Yeah.
And it's stunning. Like, it's such an incredible moment. And I just love that Han Solo in The Force Awakens, he's not the cynical scoundrel that we love him to be in the original trilogy. That's what makes him unique and great. But in The Force Awakens, he's a desperate loving father that wants to get his son back. That is not at all Han Solo in the original trilogy. And I could understand why people might be upset about that. But given what JJ is trying to do as far as flipping that mirror, I could not love that more. I don't know if there's a more emotional moment to me in this film or in this series as far as overt emotion goes. This kills me. This absolutely kills me when we get to this moment. I think it's incredible. It is easily one of my favorite Star Wars moments. I will defend this to death. I know part of it was born out of Harrison Ford wanting to get out of this franchise, which is kind of funny, if I'm being honest.
It is funny.
But if that's what he wants, JJ absolutely killed it. It was the perfect way to end that character. And I couldn't love it more. I think it's brilliant storytelling, brilliant performance, because Harrison Ford, of course, he can never just hone it in. Like he can't, he's not capable of giving an inadequate performance. And this is among his best, I think, in all of Star Wars. It's incredible. So yeah, Han Solo, his sacrifice is my number 4 here.
It's funny because you keep saying I will defend that scene, and I'm like, who do you need to defend it against? But I know there are plenty. No, there are plenty of people. Yeah, but no, I love that scene too. I mean, I hate it because I love Han Solo, but it's a beautiful scene, and it's really tragic, of course. But so many of the scenes that are either on my list or that I was contemplating involve sacrifice. So many. Yeah. And this is a really beautiful one, and it really is a full culmination of his character arc where you're right. We meet him, and that's why it's so frustrating that George Lucas re-edited A New Hope to have Han not shooting first, because the whole point is Han shoots first. Han doesn't care about anybody. Han is going to be ruthless, and he's not a bad guy, but he's not a good guy either. But he slowly becomes a risk-taking for the right reasons guy who has, such a tight friendship with Luke and, with his love of, with Leia, and that transforms him, and he joins the cause, the rebellion, to fight for something greater than himself. And
Yes.
so to see him then sacrifice himself to try to save his son is it's the culmination of that character. He has
Oh, it's so good.
completely transformed in such a beautiful way and
Yes.
a tragic way. But it's lovely. So no, and it is a way that feels earned to that character. And
I
so
agree.
I think it's a great scene. I love Force Awakens, and I think that's a really beautiful scene. So
Yeah. Good
and
stuff.
also Adam Driver's acting is also incredible in that scene. He's a great actor just in general, but it's so
I know.
good.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, I know. Phenomenal performances all around. And yeah, their confrontation there. Like, again, it's just like even though you may know where it's going to go, especially in hindsight, but there's such a tender, formidable quality to it that I deeply love. And part of it could be Ben simply trying to bring Han in closer so he could kill him easier. That could be part of it, but I don't think that's entirely what's at play there. I do think that Ben's vulnerability is real.
Yes,
And
I agree.
I do think it is a struggle. I don't think he just wants to I don't think he's that cold, because throughout so much of the film, he's just shown to be a kid who doesn't really knows what he's doing, really. So I can't really buy that all of a sudden he's just this ruthless Darth Vader figure. You know, I do think it's something he very much contemplates and struggles with. But if you want to be Darth Vader, then you have to make that choice.
Right.
But yeah, I think that's ultimately what it comes down to. But yeah, there's such a great tender quality to it. That's fantastic. Yeah, I love it. All right, so that is my number 4. I've already talked about my number 3. So what do you got at your number 3?
Okay. My number 3 is from the Rebels TV show. Excuse me. It is one of my favorite lines. Not because it's a great line of dialogue, but it's not necessarily the best line of dialogue, but it's excellent nonetheless. I love this scene. I love what it means for this character. I love it. It is the season 2 finale, Twilight of the Apprentice. It's Ahsoka Tano when she is confronting Darth Vader and before they duel, and she says, "I am no Jedi." And for those of you who have not seen, it is incredible. Ahsoka Tano is, in my opinion, the greatest Jedi character, the greatest Star Wars character. She is my favorite. I love her. And Anakin was her master. She was his apprentice. And Vader says, Anakin Skywalker was weak. I destroyed him, because previously Ahsoka had a hunch that Vader was Anakin, but she could not believe it. She just could not believe that the mentor that she loved and teacher that she loved so much could do such evil, disgusting, despicable things. And so he says he was weak. I destroyed him. And she says, then I will avenge his death. And he says, revenge is not the Jedi way. And Ahsoka says, I am no Jedi. And what I love about that line is because it is a subversion of what we know about Jedi. But Ahsoka isn't a Jedi. She walked away from the Jedi Order because she was accused of a crime. She was expelled from the Jedi Order. And then there was a whole investigation that she and Anakin underwent to clear her name. Her name is cleared. And Yoda's like, you have to come back. We want you back as a Jedi. And she's like, nope. I'm leaving. I'm out. I'm done. I'm not doing this, because her world has been shattered. Her paradigm is just fractured. She can't reconcile what the Jedi Order has done. And so she charts her own course. And like she has done all along, she retains her own moral compass and her own integrity. And I love that this line is a culmination of their mentor-mentee relationship that she has with Anakin, and that they're confronting this moment. I love that that simple statement is a rejection of the Jedi way for taking everything she learned and everything that she trained, but remaining true to herself and her own ideals. And it also, I've seen it argued that this line is also a rejection of the existing power dynamics, power structure of the Jedi. And I love that too, because so much of what we think, especially from the early films about the Jedi, is that they're benevolent and they're all good and everything is, nice and neat. And things are a lot more complex and they make mistakes. And I love this scene, and I love their dueling, and I love that there's so much love that she has for Anakin, and she doesn't want to let him go. And anyway, I love this character, love this scene, and it's fantastic. This is such an underrated show. It's so good. So good.
Megan, I need you to stop reading from my notes, please. Please stop.
Sorry.
No, incredible pick. You've opened up a can of worms, so I'm going to need you to be patient with me.
Okay.
And indulge me here for a moment.
Of course.
I planned this. Well, once I figured out my scenes, I decided to go ahead with this. I don't typically do this, but since we're already here anyway, I am going to reveal my 1 and 2 because they are very much connected. Okay. My number 2 is the moment that you just laid out there from Rebels, which, by the way, people need to go see. If you have not seen Star Wars Rebels, it is fantastic.
So good.
And I agree with you. Ahsoka is maybe the best Star Wars character. She is phenomenal. One of my absolute favorites. The Clone Wars TV show is also very good, extremely compelling. Even if animation isn't your thing, but Star Wars is, I promise you, it is absolutely worth watching all of the Clone Wars, and Rebels is just genuinely some of the best Star Wars for sure.
Agreed.
And you get this incredible moment in season 2, I believe, when this happens. I am no Jedi. So that is my number 2. My number 1 is from Return of the Jedi. I am a Jedi like my father before me. So I have these 1 and 2. And again, it goes back to my number 5 as well with Yoda and looking at the Jedi, at least with that particular scene from a religious perspective. When you look at Star Wars, broadly speaking, to me, these 2 scenes quintessentially reflect what I think Star Wars is all about, at least from the Jedi's perspective, as far as what makes them compelling and also what makes you recoil with the Jedi. Because they do have this dogma. They have a faith that you can't help but find fascinating as it relates to the Force, how they're supposed to act as these religious peacekeepers of sorts. And of course, they execute it in one of the coolest ways we've ever seen in cinema. Who doesn't love a lightsaber? It's the best.
They're amazing.
They're incredible. So I love that moment in Return of the Jedi when you look at it from a traditionalist perspective of what makes the Jedi this fascinating religious organization. And from Luke's perspective, he looks at it through an earnest prism.
Right.
I am a Jedi like my father before me. Whereas with Ahsoka, it is obviously very much the other side of that coin. I am no Jedi, she says. It is literally the antithesis to Luke, which, by the way, makes that moment with the 2 of them in Andor pretty incredible in hindsight. We're not in Andor, in Boba Fett, excuse me.
Yes,
where they have that exchange there.
So great.
Because honestly, those 2 moments in the Star Wars timeline, they don't happen too far from each other.
Right.
So it's interesting that you have, I am no Jedi, I am a Jedi, as Luke exclaims. It's such a fascinating duality. And I think what's so compelling to me about it as well is that it all comes back to that Jedi dogma, particularly as it relates to love. Anakin's fall was at the hands of that dogma and its lack of perspective when it comes to love. So Anakin's love for Padme becomes the mechanism for his turn away from the Jedi. On the flip side of that, it is Luke's love for his father that binds him to the Force. It's what gives his Hope strength. And it makes sense as to why Vader would have been moved when he saw that in Luke, because he recognized it because of his own love for Padme all those years ago. And how that dichotomy is channeled through these two moments, I just think is incredible. It speaks to, again, the good and the bad as far as the Jedi goes, the flaws, the imperfections, but also what makes them so evocative and compelling. And yeah, that moment in Rebels when she declares, "I am no Jedi," it raises the hair on your arms.
Yes.
It's quite incredible. And I love how that fight sequence crystallizes with her getting the best of Vader, and she's able to cut off half of his helmet, and you can see Anakin's eyes piercing through. And I also love the audio trick there too, because when he tells her you will die, it is both the Anakin voice actor and James Earl Jones combined. So like it's a fascinating little trick there that I think is really great. And so yeah, I mean, that moment in Rebels, it becomes an indictment on the Jedi Order and what they had become. They became they became who they were never supposed to be. They were like, they aimed to be these peacekeepers, but ultimately they become pawns of the political system. And as a result, you see them become more vulnerable and making decisions that the Order should have never have done, which eventually leads to Ahsoka being extracted from the Order, and where she goes on to be her own person. And the way all of that crystallized, I almost went with the where she buries in the one of the final last shots of Rebels, when she buries her clones there. That's a killer moment too. But yeah, that moment that you're talking about there, and what it means for Ahsoka, especially in the context of larger Star Wars storytelling, it's just superb, ravishing stuff.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so good. I love it. I love anything Ahsoka. She's the
Yeah.
best.
Yeah, I agree. And again, I just, and just to, I guess, put a wrap on it with Return of the Jedi and how those two moments contrast each other. The one other thing I'll say about it, because again, it's, this is Luke embracing the Jedi ethos. But again, doing it in a Luke specific way, because again, it's not like he embraces the goodness, the compassion that comes with the Jedi ethos, but he's not really embracing the dogma as it was intended to be, because again, every action that he takes ultimately comes through an act of love, in this case for his father, but that it's rooted in that. And I also love that as a result, the final confrontation or the final victory from Luke, it doesn't come through him doing something physical.
Right.
He literally throws the lightsaber away.
Yeah.
No, like, I'll never turn to the dark side. You've failed. I am a Jedi like my father before me. And he throws this lightsaber away. Like his victory there is by essentially giving himself up in the moment. And it's such a counterintuitive storytelling moment.
Right.
In that, especially up into that point, in terms of blockbuster filmmaking and storytelling and the hero journey, if you will.
Yeah.
But again, going back to the Christ archetypes there, it's such a fascinating parallel that he makes that choice. And it's all rooted in love and hope and the compassion he has for his father, who doesn't deserve his love, by the way.
No.
That's the other element of it too. Like, Vader and Anakin doesn't deserve Luke's treatment there. It just comes back to Luke's own goodness and turning tragedy into hope.
Right.
Fascinating stuff. Gotta love Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It's
And
the
also,
best.
it is the best. Also, what I love about that scene too, which took me a very long time to fully appreciate that and the ending of Return of the Jedi for the brilliance that it is, because I feel like it's easy to write it off as possibly trite or too treacly or something, but no, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, and I think it should be celebrated as such. But something I love too about what you're saying about Luke is that he won't leave Vader. He won't leave him. He is there. And that's something that Anakin was throughout the movies and throughout the Clone Wars, the series. He was paranoid and terrified to be left alone. And he thought Padme was conspiring against him and going to leave him. He thinks that because Ahsoka left the Jedi Order, she abandoned him. And so to have Luke, who you're right, doesn't deserve Luke's benevolence and kindness, but Luke is there and he won't abandon him. And there's real beauty in that too. So yeah, all of it's great. So great.
Yeah. Phenomenal stuff. I love it. So what do you have at your number one?
Well, I have my number 2 and my number 1.
Oh yeah,
so.
you're 2 and 1. Yeah. Round us out. You're 2 and 1.
All right. So my number 2 is again from Andor. And I could have just done a list of Andor because this is so good.
Mm-hmm.
My number 2 is Luthen's monologue about sacrifice in season 1, episode 10, One Way Out. Yeah. And I love this. I love this speech so much. It is so great. I've given up when he's asked by Lonnie what he sacrifices. I've given up all chance at inner peace. I made my mind a sunless space. I share my dreams with ghosts. And he talks about how he's damned by what he does. I yearn to be a savior against injustice without contemplating the cost. And by the time I look down, there's no longer any ground beneath my feet. I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see. Mm-hmm. This monologue, and that's not in its entirety, but it's most of it. That monologue, especially, I burn my life for someone else's future and I burn my life for a sunrise I know I'll never see, is so devastating. It's brilliantly written. Stellan Skarsgård is, of course, an exceptional actor. That's an understatement. But his performance as Luthen is so complex and nuanced. And that scene is just devastating, that he has become an absolute monster. And then what I love is that if you pair that with one of my other favorite scenes with Clea doing the hospital infiltration to try to get to Luthen, and you learn about their backstory and how Luthen was an Imperial commander or sergeant, and he committed genocide against Clea's people and then adopts her. And then he's like, this is awful. I can't do this anymore. I got to leave. And then commits his life to rebelling against the Empire. And so when you learn that and how his relationship with Clea is, it adds this other layer to his sacrifice and how he has completely ruined himself and his life and burned it all in a scorched earth policy just for the greater good, to help others. And that level of sacrifice is just devastating. And so I think it is an exceptional speech or monologue. It's an exceptional moment in an incredible, I've said it before, but I'll say it again, masterpiece of a show.
Yeah. It's phenomenal. This is probably my number 6 if we were expanding to do a 10. Heavily thought about this as well. I deeply love it. And yeah, I mean, the cracking dialogue that you're referencing there is phenomenal. It's great. Skarsgård is incredible. And it's an incredible reminder that rebellion, doing the right thing, sometimes it takes someone doing some rather morally gray things, as we see with that character throughout the show, but also the sacrifices they make. No one will ever know.
Right.
No one will ever know. No one can ever know.
No.
What he's doing. And it makes those comments about never seeing a sunrise again, it just carries in a tragic pathos to it because like he knows what he's doing is important. It's necessary even. And the fact that he's willing to do it humbly, I guess you could call, or certainly smartly, knowing that he has to do it discreetly, it's tragic and it's heartbreaking, and it's what makes that moment and the character in totality just phenomenal. Yeah, one of my favorite Star Wars characters, hands down. Great moment. Yeah,
it's so good. And I think what's really fascinating about it is that there are clearly, because we've been talking about them, there are plenty of characters who've sacrificed so much. And I think about other sacrifices like Cassian and Jyn at the end of Rogue One, which that's a devastating sacrifice. And actually all the characters in Rogue One making sacrifices. Yeah. And then I also think about one of my other scenes that I contemplated putting on this list with Kanan Jarrus's sacrifice in Rebels, which always makes me cry. It is beautiful and incredible. And a scene in a show, in an animated show like that is just, it's stunning. But I think about that, but I feel that Luthen is making those sacrifices, but we don't typically see in Star Wars, we don't see characters doing vile, unsavory things for the greater good. And so having a character like Luthen do that, and you're right, there is a necessity in that, I think is really fascinating to introduce a character like this. And then to talk about, everything that he's given up and how his life is no longer his own anymore. It's just, yeah,
it's heartbreaking.
Brilliant.
No, I'm with you.
Yeah.
Phenomenal character, great moment, love that. All right, so what do you got at number 1?
Okay, well, number 1, you did talk about loosely, and it is my number 1 scene. This, I think, is one of the most devastating scenes. It makes me cry when I think about it. It makes me cry when I rewatch it. It shattered me when I saw this for the first time. And it is the finale of Clone Wars with Ahsoka burying the dead.
Gosh,
it is
what a moment.
That moment is so
truly devastating.
Yeah, it is so powerful. It is just brimming with all of the emotions, and the fact, like, leading up to that scene, the fact that Ahsoka tells Captain Rex, "You're a good soldier, so is every one of those men down there. They may be willing to die, but I'm not the one who's going to kill them." And it's such a tense, kinetic, frenetic scene where you see her fighting through the clone troopers who are trying to kill her after Order 66 has been implemented. And she fights through them, but doesn't kill them. And then, spoiler alert, they all die because of the ship crashing. And her standing there at their graves with their helmets and her leaving one of her lightsabers, it is just jarring.
And to provide context as well, because it's not just the helmets. For those that haven't seen the show, again, you need to watch. Need to watch this. It is phenomenal. But there's a moment, some episodes prior to this, when Anakin gives her own clone regiment, and as a way to honor Ahsoka, they paint their helmets orange like her face.
Yes.
So it's a very intimate group that they're very fond of Ahsoka. So yeah, these clones they're not just any group. They are very fond of Ahsoka. They make this gesture. So when it turns, it makes that all the more heart-wrenching.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's just so devastating. And I think Clone Wars is brilliant. And I think season 7 is just exceptional. It's such a great conclusion to this series. And seeing that scene, and I love that it's dialogueless. I love that you have Kevin Kiner's gorgeously haunting score, which pays throughout the show. It pays such a great tribute to John Williams' score and uses a lot of his motifs and leitmotifs, but yet does some unique things as well.
Yeah.
I just think it's incredible. And what I love about Clone Wars in general is that it questions the very nature of identity, of individuality, of morality, but also of war itself. And this scene especially feels that it just is commenting on the complete waste of war and how there's an importance to fighting for your beliefs and fighting for what's right and rebelling against oppressive forces and standing up for that. But what happened here to these clone troopers who, even though they all are clones, they're all individuals. They all have their own styles, their own personalities, their own quirks, and they all had this camaraderie and family, and along with Ahsoka. And you're right, they did really have reverence for her and she for them. And so to see the waste of war and the pointlessness of their deaths, it's just wrenching. And again, she is just lost and just has had enough, and to just walk away from everything she's known again, it's heartbreaking. It's absolutely devastating.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Yeah, I love the visual storytelling there, which is why I almost went with this one as well. Again, fighting for that 6-7 spot here. Yeah, I love the quiet stillness, the somber tone, and just kind of lingering in that tragic irony of what just happened, and the shot of the helmets there, again, painted orange, Rex there. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. It's a beautiful ending to that show with the cap of Vader coming in there and picking up the saber, and as he walks away, you kind of get that ghostly, haunting image of Vader walking away as it glistens there in the eye line of one of the helmets. Again, all wordless, but those final moments, you could write an essay on, genuinely.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah, phenomenal stuff.
I think endings are really hard. I think they're hard in every medium, and I think that is such an exceptional ending. It is one of my favorite series finales. It's so good, so incredible.
No, I agree. I completely agree. All right. Well, I'm afraid to ask, but we are at the point where we have to talk about honorable mentions. So what do you got for honorable mentions?
Okay. Too many, but I will try to be pithy here. I already talked about Clea in the hospital scene and Kanan Jarrus' sacrifice. I think those are exceptional.
Yeah.
I also think Jyn Erso in Rogue One saying rebellions are built on hope. Which of course Nemec also says in his manifesto. And Andor, the prison break is incredible. I love the scene with Mon Mothma at the party where she realizes her life is just awful, like considering everything she's dealing with. I think back to Rebels, Darth Maul's finale with Obi-Wan is a really, really tragic culmination of that character's arc, and is really fascinating. A character I did not care about at all in Phantom Menace, and Clone Wars and Rebels made him a really fascinating character.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and also in Rebels, I love the Purrgil, aka the space whales. I love when they're introduced in season 2 when Ezra communicates with them. I also love Mando taking off his mask in The Mandalorian so he can say goodbye to Grogu and Grogu can see and touch his face. I think that's lovely. I love the trash compactor scene in A New Hope, kind of like leading up to the rescue of Princess Leia and how she subverts the kind of damsel in distress and tries to take charge, and then they go in the trash compactor. I love that scene. It's different than kind of everything we've been talking about. Darkness wise and somber, but it's a great scene. I think there's so many, like the Hondo maneuver. I love that. I know a lot of people have problems with Last Jedi. I don't care. I love that movie, and that scene's great. There's just so many. There's so many great scenes.
I know. I literally have a list here that's like 50 long. So like just reading through them, I feel like I can only stumble through a couple of these without a lot of pauses as I read through them all because there's so many. I will say this, the binary sunset in Star Wars, I think is a great honorable mention for me.
That's
Maybe
great.
in a 10 for me, actually. And there's something so simple about it, but so moving. I feel like that image there with the sunset, and again, that incredible Force theme there, it becomes the emotional backbone of that movie and Luke's journey. It's incredible. So I did want to mention that. Of course, I mean, I guess you mentioned it earlier, the Han shot first moment.
It's a
You
great
could certainly
moment.
go back to. People love that moment for sure. What else? I am your father. That reveal, we haven't even mentioned that, but that's pretty iconic and a pretty great moment.
That was on like my top 7 because I'm like, that's the most iconic
Yeah.
plot twist of all time. It's great.
Yes.
You know, and
Yeah.
it's so good. But what I also love about that scene too is just that, you know, Luke has had this vision of who his father is, this hero, this perfect paragon. And then here comes Vader, like, no, it's me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it destroys everything for him and reframes
Absolutely.
everything. And I love too that, you know, you can be related to terrible people and, you know, the people you think you know, you don't. And so
Yeah.
so beyond just a plot device, a great plot twist, I love what it means for those characters. I think it's great. It's great.
Yeah, I completely agree. And of course, it gives weight to what we talked about earlier with my number 1 when he decides to love his father anyway, despite those glaring issues. Wanted to note that the Battle of Hoth, I think, is really great. Have that
So
here.
good.
Let's see here. I'm trying to find one that really stands out to me. Oh, yes. This is another one. This is maybe a top 10 for me as well. When Luke talks to Leia about who she is to him. That moment.
Okay.
And again, I think what it comes down to is a bit of Luke embodying at least what he thinks the Jedi is.
Yeah.
And it may or may not be what the Jedi used to be all those years ago. He's formulating it in his own way. And he should, because at this point, he's the only one anyway. But it just kind of comes down to that idea of love and togetherness. Like to Luke, that's what the Force really embodies. That's what it means to him. So here's a moment going, I know that we're related because I feel it. And if when you feel the Force, you will know it to be true as well. And again, what's playing there as he's going through all of this is that incredible Force theme, which just makes every moment in this goddamn franchise.
The music's so good.
So good. So that one I really love as well. Duel of the Fates, all of that, and Phantom Menace, I think is pretty great.
That's a great scene. Yeah.
Then Attack of the Clone happens. And then we get to Revenge of the Sith. There's admittedly some pretty great things in Revenge of the Sith. I do love So This Is How Liberty Dies. We mentioned that briefly earlier.
So good.
You know, when you get to those final moments, you were the chosen one. That moment's pretty great. I'm fairly certain we talked about, and that might have been on Brendan's list the last time we did this. So that's really great. Rogue One, I'm firmly mixed on Rogue One. I talk about Interstellar, how I had such a love-hate relationship. If I had a number 2 in that category, it might be Rogue One. There's a lot in Rogue One I do really like, but I also find it so immensely frustrating. I don't think it's a movie that stands out on its own very well. However, if you read Catalyst, it gives so much weight and context to everything that happens in the movie. So the movie's actually pretty great if you read Catalyst, but Catalyst does so much of the work, I think, in order for that to happen. And there's some really great moments in Catalyst I could have here as an honorable mention as well. Whether you're a fan of Rogue One or not, I highly recommend Catalyst. Great book. Really love it a lot.
Good to know. And I do like Rogue One. So, but yeah, that's definitely something worth checking out.
Give Catalyst a go. You'll love it even more.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I like that.
you'll love it even further.
Yeah,
for
I
sure.
will say something about Rogue One that I think is great. Even if you don't like the movie, I think it is such a different tone, and I think that you don't get Andor without Rogue One. And I don't just mean because Andor's leading up to Rogue One, but I mean tonally. I feel like Rogue One is a stepping stone for Andor.
I agree. Yeah. And again, going back to the whole duality thing with Rogue One, I immediately put on Rogue One after watching Andor and in full anticipation of, I'm going to love this film now. Everything is fixed for me. It's great. Not only did I not have that experience, it just enhanced my frustrations all the more. It did the opposite effect of what I wanted.
Because Andor is so good.
Because Andor is just that good.
Yeah,
and I don't think Rogue One is all that seamless. The tone is very much there. I will say, though, there's a great moment in Rogue One right after, what's the father's name?
Jalen.
Jalen Urso. Right after he, spoiler alert, dies, and they have a confrontation on the ship, and Cassian's like, "You don't know what I've sacrificed." He says something to that effect.
Yeah,
that carries way more weight in hindsight of Andor,
right?
Because in the film, I don't feel like we get a sense of any of that. Right. That's just not there in the movie. There's no context. But again, Andor adds that context and adds a ton of weight to it. So like there are little moments like that that are enhanced as a result, but I think on the whole it's still pretty messy of a movie. But Force Awakens, I could go on all day. Last Jedi, same thing. I'm with you. I really like the film. I have a few issues with it, but mostly I think it's pretty great. Andor I could talk about all day. Again, there's so many here. I'm being extremely vague, but like the Obi-Wan Maul duel in Rebels, fantastic. That whole sequence is incredible.
That's exactly. I was trying to be vague, but exactly that's what I was talking. Yes. Yeah, that scene is incredible and makes me cry. It's so good. So good.
Absolutely.
So good. Yeah.
And going to Clone Wars one more time. Again, there's so many
let's always go to Clone Wars.
There's so many great things in it. I always go to Ahsoka because she's the best. But like when she has the moment with the Order, that's a high honorable mention for me as well.
Yes.
And I also love that episode when she has to teach, I forget the planet, but she's like teaching the young rebellion as far as how to maneuver through this, the treacherous war that they're about to get into. And there's a pretty pivotal moment in that episode that manifests in Rogue One, even like all those years later.
I know what you're talking about.
Yes, you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah,
sure
so
do.
It's pretty incredible.
Sure do.
The last thing I'll know, I'm going to go back to the novels here real fast.
Ooh, I love that.
Lost Stars, the Claudia Gray book, is really, really, really good. Really good. So again, I don't know how many people out there have read this, but it's a bit of like a Star Wars romance in a way.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's ultimately what it is, but and again, I don't want to give anything away, but where the two characters go, Thane and Sienna, the relationship is ultimately tested in a pretty significant way. And it ends with an incredible moment of ambiguity. And also, it very much tethers to some pretty significant moments in Star Wars lore as far as battles go. I'll just say the Battle of Jakku is a big part of the book.
Ooh,
and they are a significant part of that battle. So It's very, very good. I don't want to give it away in case people haven't read it, but there are some really, really incredible moments that I would label as honorable mentions here from that book. Okay, that's it. We've gone on really long here. So this show was supposed to be short. And here we are. It has not been a short show by any stretch of the imagination. So we need to get out of here. We'll wind things down. If you agree or disagree with our top 5 here, leave a comment below if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, hit us up on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky. You can always email us in sessionfilm@gmail.com as well. So we will have a couple of reviews coming out later this week. Megan and I, we are going to be talking about the film Is God Is, that got a wider release over the weekend. That's very exciting. And then Megan is going to be joined by Maxence Vincent to talk about Obsession, which I have not seen yet, but I'm very excited
So good.
to hear you guys talk about it. It wasn't necessarily on the list originally, but funny enough, I saw a lot of Obsession over Obsession. And I feel like, I'm not going to get to it, but we have to talk about it because everyone is talking about it. So we'll have a review of Obsession coming this week as well. Be on the lookout for that. New Chasing the Gold at the end of the week. Megan, anything else before we get out of here? Am I forgetting anything?
I don't think so. I think you covered it.
Okay, that's it. We talked a lot of Star Wars. Hopefully everyone enjoyed it. It was a great time. I really loved it a lot. With that, enjoy Mando in the theaters, everybody. And we will see you all next time on the In Session Film Podcast.